us? Flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening, Council is appreciative to have Monsignor Cody back with us in person to pray for this Council in the city. Monsignor, welcome back to Council.
Thank you, President Hardin. It's wonderful to be here. Let us pray. Oh, good and gracious God, the members of Columbus City Council are gathered this evening to conduct the business of our city. At the same time, this date today also celebrates two observances: Indigenous Peoples Day and Columbus Day, Christopher Columbus, the namesake of our great city. Sadly, both of these celebrated on the same day has caused much controversy to arise among the citizenry. While we cannot change the past, we must acknowledge both the good and the bad history of those nations and their history. Christopher Columbus was a brave explorer, much honored by Italian people. We would not be here today without these people who explored the then known world and inspired immigration that made our society so diverse and culturally rich. Our indigenous ancestors were the first to occupy our nation. They possessed much wisdom in connection with the natural world. Their belief in the Great Spirit underlines their religious sense and reverence for all created reality. May the celebration of both of these today lead all of us to a dedication to the causes of healing any divisions and hurts that might remain among us. That we all can honestly confront our history and move together toward mutual forgiveness and reconciliation for the common good. We realize, eternal God, that you've given us the ability to come together as your children and as brothers and sisters under your protection. May we achieve a brighter and more generous and loving community in our own country and indeed around the world. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Monsignor Cody. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Hardin. Any person who takes any actions to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of City Council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Hardin.
This week's communications received by the City Clerk's office are listed in the agenda. Are there any other communication to be presented to the public?
Not at this time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any comments, announcements, resolutions from Council, starting with President Pro Tem? Thank you. Councilmember Mitch Brown.
Nothing this evening, sir.
Councilmember Dorans.
Thank you, President Hardin. This time I'd like to ask Darius Blackford, Director of the 41st Columbus Marathon, to come forward. As I introduce resolution number 0178X-2021 to recognize the 41st Nationwide Children's Hospital Marathon for celebrating this community, its exceptional fundraising efforts, and groundbreaking research that's been funded by that research. This marks the 9th year of the Nationwide Children's Hospital is honored to be the title beneficiary of the Columbus Marathon and Half Marathon. Thus far, more than $10 million has been raised for the hospital, including more than $1 million contributed since 2012 by the Columbus Marathon Board of Directors. The 41st Nationwide Children's Hospital Columbus Marathon will take place this Sunday, October 17th, 2021, in the heart of our city here in downtown. We encourage everyone to register and fundraise for the event. There's still an opportunity for folks to donate. You can dedicate your race to help kids that have been honored and certainly treated at this incredible institution by running 13.1 or 26.2. Folks are in the race this weekend. I want to thank the director here for all of his hard work in getting ready for this race. I've had the pleasure, I think, of running this race 6 or 7 times. It's truly, I think, one of the best that I've ever had the honor of joining, and certainly just a great cause. And I think if anyone who's been a part of the race, certainly the Angel Mile there at the end for the half marathoners, it's if you think that you don't, you're basically out of gas there at the end, like I always am, as you sort of come back into downtown, you've got a little bit of an incline, and then you see the families that are there that are honoring their loved ones that have fought incredible diseases with the help of Nationwide Children's, and it's really a special part of the race, and certainly a special part of people taking the time to make sure that they're honoring kids that didn't have the opportunity to make it, and those that are fighting every single day at Nationwide Children's Hospital. So with that, I'm going to stop running my mouth and a terrible dad joke, and allow the director to actually talk a little bit more about the race. Director Blackfield?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Council, for allowing me. I come here every year. I had to miss last year when we had to cancel, but just to say thank you. Thank you to the citizens of Columbus and the nearby suburbs of Bexley, Upper Arlington, and Grandview Heights for allowing us to borrow their streets for a few hours on the third Sunday of October. As really, the comments really do come back full force regarding our partnership with Nationwide Children's Hospital. I'm probably most thankful this year that all the kids that we were going to honor in 2020 are returning. Now, we did have to take new pictures of them because when you start doing the math, a 4-year-old child, for example, 1 year is 25% of their life. They changed a lot, so we had to take new pictures of everybody. But we're so blessed and so thankful for the opportunity and just the partnership with the city, Columbus Recreation and Parks, and the Columbus Police Department and Division of Fire for helping us put this event on every year. We're going to have more than 8,000 people this year. And we are, again, on track to continue to raise money for the great work of the Nationwide Children's Hospital. Does anyone have any questions or concerns, or anyone doing it?
You missed me this year,
Yeah,
so
well,
I will be back next year.
Well, it comes back every year.
Indeed.
So thank you so much. I appreciate the support and the kind words.
Thank you, Director Blackford. I just want to, again, underline, I think one of the really cool parts of this event is that every single mile there's a child that has been touched by the important work of Nationwide Children's Hospital. And the joy and the smile on their faces as runners are coming by, it is truly a great day. It's one hell of a boost for folks who are out there when you think you can't go another mile and you see those smiling faces that are out there. So it's a wonderful race. It's a great tour of the city. But again, it's an even more important event for what they're doing to help to raise money for the kids over at Nationwide Children. So appreciate everything you're doing. And with that, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Adopted.
Thank you, President. That's all I have.
Congratulations. Councilmember Favor.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Just a brief announcement. This Thursday, October 13th at 5:30 p.m. at Dodge Recreation Center, I will be hosting a Latino Town Hall discussion. The Town Hall will provide an opportunity for Latino and Hispanic residents to engage about issues in the Columbus community and continue the conversation that began at Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. Residents interested in attending can contact my legislative assistant, Anissa Lieben, at aaliban@columbus.gov. Thank you, Council President Harden.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. I have one announcement this evening. I would like to remind everyone that the Cleaner Columbus Youth Grants are still available for youth groups throughout the city of Columbus. This program engages youth groups including sports teams, cheer squads, scout units, chess clubs, as well as service, academic, and civic organizations to collect litter and debris from various locations within the Hilltop, Linden, Near East Side, Far East Side, South Side, and Northland neighborhoods. Groups will earn a minimum of $500 per area to support their fundraising efforts. There will be an opportunity to select up to 3 areas per group to earn a total of $1,500. The deadline to apply is Friday, October 29th, 2021. And that is all I have this evening. So thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember. And Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, President Harden. Yes, I have one resolution. It's Resolution 179X-2021, and I'm going to ask the Executive Director of Project Mayor Paso to come to the podium of the Dominican Sisters of Peace. This resolution is to recognize and to celebrate October the 11th of 2021 as the International Day of the Girl in the city of Columbus and to applaud Project Mayor Paso of the Dominican Sisters of Peace for their support of girls. Whereas the concept of the International Day of the Girl first began as part of the World Conference on Women in Beijing, China, which was held in 1995. This conference was a catalyst of change as it allowed countries to unanimously adopt the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, which at the time was the most progressive blueprint for advancing the rights of women and girls in the world, as it specifically called out the rights of girls. Whereas the United Nations General Assembly adopted resolution number 66 on December the 19th of 2011, declaring October the 11th as the International Day of the Girl, recognizing the rights of girls and their unique challenges facing girls around the world. The International Day of the Girl focuses attention on the need to address the challenges girls face by promoting the empowerment of girls and the fulfillment of their human rights. Whereas the theme for the 2021 International Day of the Girl is Digital Generation. Our generation, helping girls know their digital realities and the solutions they need to pave paths to freedom of expression, joy, and boundless potential. Let's commit to widening these pathways so that this generation of girls can become a generation of technologists. Whereas some 2.2 billion people below the age of 25 still do not have internet access at home. Girls are more likely to be cut off. The gender gap for global internet users has grown from 11% in 2013 to 17% in 2019. In developing countries, this number is around 43%. And whereas Project Mayor Paso started on July the 16th of 2021, they are part of the Dominican Sisters of Peace, who are members of the Order of Preachers Vowed Catholic Sisters who strive to live a life of peacemaking wherever they are and in everything they do. They follow the gospel and the tradition of the Roman Catholic Church and work to build a peaceful world through their ministries, their prayer, and their way of life. In the Dominican tradition, prayer, community, ministry, and study are at the heart of their vocation. Project Mayor Paso, on average, connects with 90 girls and 40 moms each year. During their very first year, they served 30 girls and 10 moms. To date, they have served over 700 girls and 30 moms and provided more than 1,500 hours, volunteer hours, to include bilingual programming. They have a number of premier events, which also include summer camp, and they generally have meetings on Saturdays, and thus far, they have one student who graduated from college, and they have nine individuals who are also enrolled in college. Whereas this council, pursuant to the Commission on Black Girls' Quality of Life report, recognizes that girls have the right to a safe, educated, and healthy life, not only during these critical formative years, but also as they mature into women. It is believed that with effective support, girls have the potential to change the world, both as the empowered girls of today and as tomorrow's workers, mothers, entrepreneurs, mentors, household heads, and political leaders. This investment in girls upholds their rights and promises a more equitable and prosperous future, one in which half of humanity is an equal partner to solving the problems of climate change, political conflict, economic growth, disease prevention, and global sustainability, breaking the barriers posed by stereotypes and exclusions. Girls can become entrepreneurs, innovators, initiators of global movements. Moreover, they can create a world that is relevant for them and future generations. Now therefore be it resolved by this council of the City of Columbus that this council does hereby recognize and celebrate October the 11th of 2021 as the International Day of the Girl. in the city of Columbus, and to applaud Project Mariposa and the Dominican Sisters of Peace for their support of girls. Ms. Rose, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson, President Harding, and council members. It is such an honor for me to be here celebrating International Day of the Girl during Hispanic Heritage Month and on the 10th anniversary of Proyecto Mariposas. So on behalf of our girls, of our board members, of our families, thank you so much for this opportunity. The Proyecto Mariposas mission is really to empower, mentor, and support Latina women and girls with tools, knowledge, leadership skills, and to lead the brave and strong life. We are truly committed to be a knowledgeable voice for the Latina girls and mothers in our community through research, programming, and support. Our commitment is to continue our learning as we form ongoing partnerships with the community. We believe that every woman and girl can live a life that is healthy if she has the support, the tools, resources, and mentors to empower and encourage her, as you mentioned, Council Tyson. We're delighted that we are able to continue serving girls and women in Columbus and nearby areas by providing programming, summer camps, and safe spaces for them to build skills and resilience. Proyecto Mariposa started with only 4 girls and 3 moms, and we have grown to serve over 100 girls per year. Through our programming, we're able to continue support the girls once she graduates from high school and transitions into college by providing opportunities for them to return as role models. And I want to quickly highlight 4 young women that have been part of Proyecto Mariposa since the beginning and are currently at Ohio State. Shaina Hernandez, who recently graduated from a degree in psychology. Regina Loaiza, who is a student of environmental policy and decision making. Ebony Hernandez, a student of art and education, and Lisette Kahn, a pre-med student. These are only 4 young women that represent their culture. Some of them are first-generation college students, and they are opening the doors for the other girls that are behind them. So I'm so proud that they have been part of Proyecto Mariposas, and now they continue to be part as role models and mentors. And finally, I want to thank the Columbus City Council because your investment, dedication, and care for our programming in our city allows organizations like Proyecto Mariposas, Dominican Sisters of Peace, Martin de Porres Centers offer opportunity for youth in Columbus. So thank you so much for your ongoing support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rose, for your leadership and changing the lives of girls in our city. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember, we have an amendment on that.
sorry. Councilmember Harden?
I think we have an amendment on the resolution.
I have the resolution.
You have a resolution.
Amendment.
There's an amendment.
Oh,
on the
amendment.
resolution.
I first need to move to amend.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor. Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. Now I move for adoption.
Thank you.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor. Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you.
Adopted. Congratulations.
And I also have I have 2 announcements. The first one is, these are both in reference to Columbus Public Health. The Inclined Infants Sleeper Trade-In event is tomorrow, Tuesday, October the 12th, from 3 to 7 p.m. at Columbus Public Health at 240 Parsons Avenue, the Front Loop drive-through event. Infant inclined sleepers have been recalled due to the risk of suffocation, and babies have died in these sleepers. The first 65 people to turn in a recalled item will receive a $20 gift card plus a free gift bag with a helpful home safety items. Again, but they will be receiving a sleeper. Registration is required in advance. And so please go online to safesleepcolumbusevent.eventbrite. Car seats and free cribs are available for those who also qualify. And then the additional announcement is that Race and Equity Through Action Training and Learning is November the 5th. It's Racial Equity Through Action and Learning, Talking the Talk. So it is an invitation on Friday the 5th of 2021 from 8:30 to 12:30. It will be held through Zoom, and it will be discussing the importance of using the right language to discuss racial inequity. key terms to effectively talk about racial equity, and the appropriate verbal responses to the situations that challenge racial equity. And you can go online and register at Columbus Public Health. And the last comment I'll make, I wanted to say a thank you to Columbus Public Health. They just recently gave their 200,000 dose of the vaccine to our residents. So that's been a lot of work for that team, and just want to say congratulations to them and thank the individuals who came and got vaccinated through Columbus Public Health. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Both very important, and certainly want to thank the folks at the Health Department who have been working for a very long time, keeping us all safe through this pandemic. I have one resolution this evening. It's a resolution that I bring every year because I get so excited about it. For folks who have drove past the fairgrounds in the last week, you have seen my favorite pastime. Well, it's not my favorite pastime anymore, but the Quarter Horse Congress is in town. And I think that we have the executive director, Dr. Scott Myers, on with us. But it's important for us as a city, for folks who don't love horses as much as I do and weren't raised around American quarter horses, this is still very important to the city of Columbus. This event in past, especially before COVID, has brought more than almost 2/3 of a million people to our city. The people are great, but what they leave behind is even better, which is $750 million worth of economic impact to Columbus. That impact helps us pave roads, hire police officers, hire firefighters, and do open rec centers, keep rec centers open. And so, again, even if you don't love the equine and all the good food that's up at the fairgrounds, we have to, as a city, love and appreciate the Quarter Horse Congress and their 54 years of commitment to our city. Just think they have been coming back and have been committed to Columbus for 54 years, and for that we are grateful. Is Dr. Myers on with us? Dr. Myers, welcome back to council. I'm also apologizing that I didn't wear my cowboy hat. You know I have it because you took me to go pick it out. It's one of my favorites. So, but I want to turn the floor over to you before I ask my colleagues if they have any comments about the Quarter Horse Congress. Welcome back to council, my friend, and welcome back to the city of Columbus.
Thank you so much, Council President Hardin. We appreciate those kind words, and thank you to the rest of the members of City Council for welcoming me here tonight. As you know, the 54th Annual All-American Quarter Horse Congress is currently underway here in Columbus. The Congress started as a 3-day event at the Ohio Expo Center in 1967. Over the past 54 years, our event has grown to 27 days. And as the largest single breed horse show in the world, this event brings in 7,500 horses and more than 650,000 people to the Ohio Expo Center each year. Our 4-week event generates $409 million in economic impact for the Central Ohio economy every year. And over the last 54 years, the Quarter Horse Congress has brought an estimated $7.7 billion in direct and indirect impact to Columbus and the state of Ohio, and more than 700 million people to Columbus. Your support over the years has allowed us to continue to grow, and we hope that today serves as a reminder of how far we have come and what is possible in the future. The Quarter Horse Congress places a strong emphasis on developing our youth. We hold the largest youth show in the world with over 6,000 youth entries competing this year. We host the largest intercollegiate team judging contest with more than 65 colleges and universities from across the nation, bringing teams here to Columbus to compete. We also offer competitions for equestrians with disabilities, and we pay tribute to our veterans through our Heroes and Horse competition. The growth of the Congress has been even more than we anticipated in just the last few years. So we look forward to discussing with each of you how we can partner to continue that positive momentum and explore additional opportunities to meet the growing needs of the Quarter Horse Congress. We're so appreciative that the City of Columbus has embraced the Congress over the years, and we look forward to continuing to build this great relationship with all of you. On behalf of the Ohio Court Horse Association, we thank you and appreciate all you have done to support the Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Myers. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Well, seeing none, again, welcome. Make sure that all those folks who are participating, competing, or just visiting our city, please, we hope that they have a wonderful time, a safe time in the city of Columbus. I move for adoption. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson. President Harden.
Adopted. Thank you, Dr. Myers.
Thank you all so much.
Yes. Are there any comments from the elected officials, the auditor, city attorney's office, any judges on the line? Good to see you, Madam Auditor. May we now have a motion to waive reading of titles of 30-day legislation? Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson. President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation?
Finance Committee, ordinances 2371, 2379, 2412, 2467-2021. Education Committee, ordinance 2429-2021. Public Safety Committee, ordinance 2255-2021. Public Utilities Committee, ordinances 2369, 2399, 2411, 2420, 2432, 2453, 2459, 2465, 2507-2021. Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee, ordinance 2466-2021. Economic Development Committee, ordinance 2524-2021. Rules and Reference Committee, ordinance 1811-2021. Zoning Committee, ordinances 2490, 2491, 2492, 839, 1070, and 1071-2021.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Seeing no speakers on the first reading, the following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent. Will the clerk now read those numbers into the record?
Resolutions of Expression 172X, 174X, and 175X-2021. Finance Committee, ordinances 2373, 2374, 2415, 2425, 2484, 2501, 2540-2021. Recreation and Parks Committee, ordinances 2044 and 2318-2021. Public Safety Committee, ordinance 2386, 2441, 2480, 2482, 2520, and 2521-2021. Public Utilities Committee, ordinances 2249, 2367, 2464-2021. Technology Committee, ordinance 2509-2021. Public Service and Transportation Committee, resolutions 140X, 142, 143X-2021, and ordinance 2320, 2358, 2359, 2361, 2390, 2406, 2457, 2458-2021. Housing Committee, ordinances 2444, 2446, 2447, 2468-2021. Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee, ordinances 2362, 2434-2021. Economic Development Committee, ordinances 2395, 2402, 2403, 2423, 2505, 2506-2021. Administration Committee, ordinance 2477-2021. Health and Human Services Committee, ordinance 2422, 2438, 2481, 2486, 2489, 2518-2021. Small and Minority Business Committee, ordinance 2544-2021. And appointments from the Mayor's Office numbered A0167-2021.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any questions or comments about the consent portion of the agenda from my colleagues? I don't see any speakers on the consent portion of the agenda. So may I have a motion for approval? By voice? Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Ms. Brown?
Yes, with the exception of 2415 and 2501-2021, on which I'm abstaining.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Dorans?
Yes, with the abstention of ordinance number 2429-2021. Sorry, yes. Just kidding. We'll get to that later.
Ms. Favor? Mr. Remy?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes, and that's teamwork. Ordinances are passed with the noted exceptions. We will now go to second reading portion of our agenda. The first committee to come before council is the Finance Committee, chaired by President Pro Tem. President Pro Tem, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Council President. In Finance tonight, we have Ordinance 2419-2021 to authorize the issuance of limited tax bond anticipation notes in an amount not to exceed $28 million for the purpose of financing the costs of constructing the Starling Street parking garage. In accordance with Section 44(1)B of the City Charter, the bond notes being authorized by this ordinance will refund outstanding notes issued in 2020 that will mature on November 19th, 2021. Thank you to Auditor Kilgore and her staff for their work saving taxpayer dollars through their management of the city's debt portfolio with the timely issuance and repayment of bonds like these. The operation of parking garages has consistently generated revenue for the city. Using this revenue, we often pay down the debt service for their construction on an accelerated schedule. Strong revenue, savings through accelerated debt payments, and, and supporting the parking needs of new development have made the construction of parking garages like this a strong investment for the city. In order to issue these bonds as soon as possible, we will be waiving second reading. If there are no questions, I request to waive second reading.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden?
Waived.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden?
Passed.
Thank you so much. And may I move on to Recreation and Parks Committee?
Please.
Thank you. And I actually think the first ordinance is Councilmember Dorans to read.
Yep. Thank you, Chair Brown. In Recreation and Parks, I have ordinance number 2037-2021 to authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks to enter in a contract with Moody Nolan for the Community Creative Campus and Park Design Project, to authorize the appropriation of $1,150,000 within the Recreation and Parks Special Purpose Fund 2223, Subfund 222356, to authorize the transfer of $95,000 within the Recreation and Parks Permanent Improvement Fund, to authorize the amendment of the 2020 capital improvement budget, to authorize the expenditure of $1,767,230 from the Recreation and Parks Voted Bond Fund, Permanent Improvement Fund, and Special Purpose Fund, and to declare an emergency. This project's mission is to support the ability of the Recreation and Parks Department to meet the needs of Columbus residents by creating facilities that are stimulating, providing support for the arts and creative community, as well as providing important park space for the Old Town East community. This 4-acre site, formerly the Douglas School property, was purchased in 2020. With the procurement of the property, we acquired a unique opportunity to develop an innovative community creative campus and park that will offer expanded and efficient space for new programs, services, and recreational opportunities for the surrounding neighborhood. The space will also support the programming that took place at the former Golden Hobby Shop and Martin Janus Center. Emergency action is being requested as this new facility is intended to serve the senior creative programs formerly housed, as I mentioned, at the Golden Hobby Shop and Martin Janus buildings. Several of these programs have been rehoused at the Thompson Community Center for the performing arts. As a result, there are no programs that no longer have space, and we'd like to get those programs in this new space as soon as possible. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Brown? Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Dorans?
Yes.
Ms. Favor? Yes. Mr. Remy?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes, ordinance is passed.
And with that, I will turn the committee back over to President Pro Tem Brown.
Thank you, Council Member. Next in Recreation and Parks, we have Ordinance 2312-2021 to authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks to enter into a grant agreement with the Ohio Public Works Commission for the Refugee Road Mason Run Preservation Project. To authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks to accept a grant in the amount of $1,008,000 with a minimum local match of $432,000. to authorize the appropriation of $1,008,000 in the Recreation and Parks Grant Fund 2283, to authorize the transfer of $432,000 within the Rec and Parks Voted Bond Fund, to authorize the amendment of the 2020 Capital Improvement Budget Ordinance, and to declare an emergency. This project will help protect a high-quality waterway, a greenway corridor, and an urban forest. The preservation of key natural sites like this helps achieve the Recreation and Parks Department's mission to preserve and promote access to green space throughout our city. Mason Run is a primary tributary stream of Big Walnut Creek. It goes from the John Glenn Airport to Winchester Pike at Three Creeks Park. This project will protect almost 56 acres of woodland and 21 acres of open meadow and floodplain between Refugee Road and Kimberly Parkway along the stream. Through acquisitions in 2007 and 2009, the Rec and Parks Department acquired 45 acres of adjacent conservation property along Mason Run, bringing the total stream corridor being protected to nearly 1.25 miles. Almost 5,000 residents live within a 10-minute walk of these natural areas and its 5 existing access points. Emergency action is being considered to acquire the property as soon as possible. Are there any questions from colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson. President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you, Council President. May I move to Education Committee?
Please.
In Education tonight, we have back on first reading, actually. If you go back to first reading, we have Ordinance 2429. That's on page 5. To authorize and direct the Director of Education to enter into contracts with high-quality pre-kindergarten organizations, Southside Early Learning at Hilltop and Southside Early Learning at Reeb, to provide educational services, to authorize the expenditure of up to $110,857.50 from the general fund. So this ordinance provides funding for the Early Start Columbus program, which expands access to high-quality pre-kindergarten classrooms through partnerships with Columbus City Schools and community-based providers. In September, Council approved $4 million in funding for the program, and this ordinance allocates additional funding for eligible families with children attending an additional child care facility, Southside Early Learning. There are 2 locations. And we are waiving second reading tonight to get this much-needed funding out the door as soon as possible. So if there are any questions, see none. I first request to waive second reading by voice.
Clerk, please call the roll. By voice.
I'll call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
I'll call.
Mr. Dorans?
Abstain.
Ms. Faber? Mr. Remy? Ms. Tyson?
Yes.
President Harden?
Abstain.
President Pro Tem Brown?
Yes. Ordinance passes. Or excuse me, second reading is waived. Now I move for passage. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Dorans?
Abstain.
Ms. Faber? Mr. Remy?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson?
Yes.
President Harden?
Abstain.
President Pro Tem Brown?
Yes. Ordinance passes. And Council President Harden, that's all I have in my committees. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Safety Committee, chaired by Councilmember Mitch Brown. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. This evening in Public Safety, I have Ordinance 2354, 2021, to amend the 2020 Capital Improvement Budget to authorize the City Auditor to transfer funds between projects within the Department of Public Safety's bond funds, to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Safety, on behalf of the Division of Support Services, to enter into a contract with Sound Communications, Inc. for the upgrade of the audio-digital communications recording system for police and fire communications, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of $318,104.86 from the Public Safety's Capital Improvement Fund. This evening, we have Deputy Director Stone, for public safety. Would you please share the importance of this system and the need for the requested update and the request for bid waiver, sir?
Council members, the audio digital communications recording system records all emergency 911 calls and non-emergency calls and radio transmissions in the police and fire communications center. Between 2017 through 2020, there were over 1.1 million total calls each year. In addition, year to date, 2021, there have been 6.1 million radio transmissions and over 4,000 public records requests for audio. Public records requests, the public record laws in Ohio require us to retain recorded radio and telephone transmissions electronically for 2 years. The current system from Sound Communications is approximately 10 years old and is due for an upgrade to incorporate improved security, as well as upgrade the system software and hardware. The purpose of the bid waiver is that this is an upgrade of an existing system with the current vendor, Sound Communications. Sound Communications is the sole representative provider in the area for the upgrade. They have performed well for Columbus, and the cost of changing out the entire system with a new vendor risks significant higher costs. Thank you.
If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage. Councilman Remy.
Is our system right now currently cloud-based on that recording, or is that hard drive? Director Stone.
Wanting to upgrade, it has software and hardware for the system.
And when we ultimately change our computer-assisted dispatch system, will these work together, or will we be looking at something different overall?
They're working together.
Councilmember Remy, we plan to use this system in the future as well.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no additional questions from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Also this evening, sir, I have ordinance 2472, 2021, to authorize an appropriation within the Reimagine Safety Subfund in the support of the Ideal Inclusive Initiative, to authorize a transfer and appropriation within the general fund and to declare an emergency. Ideal or Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Acceptance, and Likeness Initiative is being created to establish an undivided, inclusive culture within the Division of Fire. This evening, I have firefighter Elizabeth Finnegan has joined us to provide some additional information about this initiative. Firefighter Finnegan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Council President Pro Brown, Safety Chair Brown, and council members. On behalf of Safety Director Clark and the Fire Chief Happ, it is my pleasure to speak to you all about the Ideal Steering Committee and this legislation. To give an overview on myself, I've been a firefighter for about 5 years now. When I first started on the department of 1600, there were about 130 people of color and 23 women. And of those 23 women, only 4 of them looked like me. In my exit interview from the training academy, I told then Chief Jim Davis that it was my personal goal to make sure that we increased those numbers and that we recruited more women and especially more women of color. Today, we have about 52 women total and 7 women of color. In the efforts of Chief Happ to continue increasing the diversity and increase in inclusion, he created the Ideal Steering Committee, which, along with myself and 11 other members, we have come together to try to make sure that we're developing the department into a culture that's inclusive and united by our diversities. The members range from anyone who just graduated within the last 2 years to our badge 1, who's the most senior firefighter in the department with over 36 years. The funds that would go towards the ideal committee, we would use to buy messaging boards to put in all the stations, in all 35 stations, to display our message that would include messages for diversity and different topics going on within the division, along with t-shirts and different items that put our message out there for a division undivided.
If there are no additional, I'm sorry, please.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, so that money would be very helpful for us to get our message out and get the material out to all 1,600 members.
Again, Council President, one of the objectives of this particular program is to provide message boards, as she said, to all 35 fire stations, where the fire chief will be able to convey messages that will be required viewing on the part of the Division of Fire with regards to information regarding activities within the fire division and or educational programming. So we're excited about moving forward with this project. And if there are no further questions, I move for passage.
I would just thank your leadership and also thank Firefighter Finnegan for being with us tonight and for her leadership. I've spoken with firefighters several times about the work that needs to be done, that has been done, and really the role that she is playing as a Black woman on our fire department. These types of tools are the tools that we have at our disposal to talk to each and every one of our members of our firefighter department, and I look forward to supporting. So,
Councilman Brown, before you go, Councilman Brown down here. You know, I
know
that.
I'm sorry.
You know, I know it's a little challenging.
I'm accustomed to looking over this way.
I know.
Forgive me, Councilman
I know
Tyson.
you heard the voice. I know it's a little challenging when you're on this side. Even the speakers look at there; they don't look my way at all. But I would just state that. I just really appreciate this legislation and certainly Ms. Finnegan's role in looking for ways that made her personal commitment to state that she wanted the fire division to be much more diverse. And we certainly know that if we can get more, especially women of color, to be a part of the safety division, and in this case, in our fire, that again, not only will they will be able to provide a service to our community, but also be role models for especially other girls. So when you think about today being the International Day of the Girl, that her role, that she stepped up to make sure that other girls will have this opportunity and also begin to continue to educate the Division of Fire. So I'm excited that she took on this responsibility and that we're providing her and this program with the tools to begin to continue to make sure that we can have a more inclusive Division of Fire. So thank you for bringing this legislation forward, but most importantly, I want to thank Ms. Finnegan for this work. So great work.
Thank you, Councilman Tyson. I think it's important to note that also in the audience we have Director Clark, but Chief Happ initiated the program with the members of the Division of Fire, recognizing the importance of offering up inclusivity within the division, and this is one way to make that all happen. So I don't know if Director Clark, if you wish to comment now or you want to wait till later on, sir.
I can comment now if you like.
Be my guest.
Certainly, good evening, President Hardin, President Pro Tem Brown, Councilman Brown, our Safety Chair. I come before you today as the Safety Director, but I also come before you to represent the outstanding work and leadership of Police Chief Elaine Bryant and Fire Chief Jeffrey Happ, and all of the work that they're doing, the innovative ways that they are working together and trying to figure out ways to address the violence that we experience in our city today. We recognize that. We see it on the news every day, it seems. And just in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a gun buyback program. And it's not just a gun buyback program, but it will also include other activities all in one. It's sort of like a health fair, if you will, where we will have the opportunity to pass out food to the community, safety equipment for children, coupons where families can go and pick up child seats, pass out flu shots, and a variety of other things that they will be able to do up there at the Fire Academy. I have to tell you, being involved in probably about 20 gun buyback programs, I've never seen such a comprehensive program is the one that we will have on the 23rd. And I'm so confident with their leadership that we will be able to continue to engage the community in a substantive way where when we wrap up that event on the 23rd, we will not only have delivered much needed resources to our community, but we will have delivered a tremendous amount of peace of mind, because the community will know that we will have a dozen guns or 100 guns that are taken off the streets that will no longer be able to be used to perpetrate violence against our residents. So I'm just so proud of the work that our chiefs are doing, and certainly the women and men in the Division of Police, the women and men in the Division of Fire, who just continue to lean forward and press forward on ways that we can continue to serve and bring safety and peace of mind to the residents of Columbus. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Clark. On the legislation, initially, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Also this evening, I have ordinance 2579, 2021, to authorize the city treasurer to modify its contract with U.S. Bank for gift cards for the Department of Public Safety, the Division of Police, for its gun buyback project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $5,000 from the fund of 2219 and to declare an emergency. As you've heard from Director Clark, and you'll hear from him again, currently we're at 166 homicides to date. Our homicide rates have reached a historic high. The cause of death in 91% of these homicides has been a firearm. Since July of this year, my office has provided funding on 2 separate occasions to purchase gun locks. These gun locks were initially distributed by our fire stations to anyone who requested one, no questions asked. Distribution of gun locks was expanded to our police community liaison officers, our REACT teams, our CFD recruitment teams, and our mobile city hall staff. We do not want to leave any stone unturned in our efforts to turn the tide and the number of homicides by firearms in our city. Later this month, as you've heard from Director Clark, the Division of Police, in conjunction with the Division of Fire, will host a gun buyback program. I asked Director Clark to come to City Council to speak to this issue to provide additional clarity, because I know he's had experience with gun buyback programs in the past. So again, Director Clark, would you speak to the value of having a gun buyback? Whether or not they're successful is a different issue. The fact is that we're initiating the program.
Be happy to. When I was assigned to Los Angeles with the Los Angeles Police Department and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, we did over 24 gun buyback programs, but it wasn't just the police or the city buying back weapons. It was a collaborative partnership, a comprehensive program to partner with our business community to be able to actively engage our community, encourage our community, market in our community to have those weapons turned in so that we could get those weapons off of the street, and gave peace of mind that we would no longer have to fear those particular weapons perpetrating violence against our residents. We recognize that we have a lot of work to do. When I sit down and talk with the chief of police, when I talk with the fire chief, we recognize that we will not be able to do this alone. So we encourage our business partners, as we are beginning to now, to build a comprehensive approach to this issue. And that's why I'm so happy to see that we have those who have come and joined this effort to be able to provide food, to be able to provide child safety equipment, so that the community can see us not just standing as public safety services, but we are standing as a collective community in partnership with our business community so we can ultimately bring that safety and peace of mind that we're looking for. So this is just the beginning. I assure you that the chiefs of police and the chief of fire and myself are continuing to look for innovative ways that we can engage our community. We recognize that the weather is about to change, but that will not stop our effort to bring innovative strategies and programming to our communities and to our residents so that we can ultimately see the kind of reduction in crime that we are all looking for every single day. And I promise you, as I've stood here before you a few weeks ago and promised you, we will work aggressively and actively and proactively to be able to find those strategies and find those ways to do exactly what I've said, reduce crime in the city of Columbus and to deliver peace of mind to our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Clark. Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you. Safety Director Clark, I have a question, and certainly I really appreciate the work that you've done in your career, but I just have one question regarding the guns that are in the community.
Sure.
And can you just share, just briefly, certainly when I think about the guns and where most of the crime tends to be in our community, and we know that there are no gun manufacturers in our neighborhoods creating these guns.
Sure.
Can you kind of just share with me what work you've done in the past in terms of, stopping the guns just coming into communities and what we are thinking about doing here in Columbus?
Sure. Well, we also understand that, as you said, no guns are made here in the city of Columbus. So we know that there is a transshipment effort that is happening. And we recognize that in the heartland of Ohio, or our heartland of the country, Ohio is a transshipment point. So as I shared before, we will begin working with our business partners and business community and working with our other law enforcement partners, such as the Ohio Highway Patrol, Franklin County Sheriff's Office, and other agencies to work collaboratively with alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. I understand that they are launching an effort here in the city of Columbus to be able to address gun violence. So we will be working with them to really kind of understand how do weapons arrive in the city of Columbus. And we will be working backwards, certainly to hold anyone who is making straw purchases of weapons or buying weapons on the internet. We certainly understand that there are individuals who can buy weapons on the internet or buy pieces of weapons on the internet and put those things together, or even gun shows or whatever the case may be, so that we can get our hands wrapped around the gun problem here in the city of Columbus in a variety of different ways and at multiple levels, not just at the local level, but the state level and the federal level as well. We've had tremendous success by those collaborative partnerships and being able to cut off the supply of weapons in the city of Columbus and around the country. But we recognize that criminals are always going to find ways to get guns. That's why it's so critical for us to be in partnership with agencies like alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, because we can track those weapons and track where they were sold and even track the crimes that they were involved in to be able to hold individuals responsible far away from Columbus because those weapons ended up here in Columbus.
Thank you so much.
You're very
for sharing
welcome.
that. Thank you.
Director Clark, Council President?
No, thank you, Chair Brown and Safety Director Clark. I am very appreciative for the work of you, Director, and you, Councilmember Brown, with this initiative being innovative around guns. I do think it's important, though, that as a city, we do not let the state house off the hook as it pertains to guns and our ability to do more as a city. Over and over again, they exempt our ability to lean in on a issue that obviously is top of mind. And I can't go anywhere, and rightfully so, without a conversation about guns and safety. And that is my job and our job collectively as leaders of this city. But we also have to hold our friends accountable at the State House who have handicapped us time and time again as it pertains to getting guns off the streets and out of the hands of folks who should not have them. And so we encourage and we support, and are excited to support this piece of legislation so that we can do this buyback, encourage residents to take part in it. But we also encourage folks to help us advocate, continue our advocacy to the State House on this very specific issue as we have this rising crime. So again, thank you and look forward to your continued work. You are really bringing a lot of confidence in this space of safety to the community, and we look forward to working with you.
I appreciate that, President Harden, but please rest assured that it is not me alone. There's a tremendous team that stands behind me, and they are innovative thinkers who are leaning forward on this issue. We recognize the political aspect that you're talking about, but we also appreciate and understand that we have to be pressing forward in our community to bring the safety that they are looking for today while those political conversations take place.
Thank you, Director Clark. And Council President, I also want to point out that we have, over the past 90 days, given out over 1,800 gun locks for free. Go to any fire station and ask for a gun lock, and it will be provided to you. I think we purchased something like around 2,500, and if necessary, we'll purchase more. But the fact that we've given away over 1,800 gun locks from our fire stations, any fire station in the city, is pretty significant in of itself. With that, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson. President Harden.
Passed.
Council President, if with your permission, I'd like to move on to Veterans and Senior Affairs, sir.
Please.
In Veterans and Senior Affairs, I have Ordinance 2558, 2021, to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement with Life Care Alliance in support of the Meals on Wheels program, to authorize an expenditure within the Recovery Fund, and to declare an emergency of $1 million. Everyone around here knows the importance of Meals on Wheels, and I would say to all of us to take some time, if you haven't volunteered, take a moment and go help someone else. Participate in, especially around the holidays. We have Thanksgiving and we have Christmas coming up. One of the fun times for my family that we participate in the Meals on Wheels programs, and I would advocate for that in any way possible. Council President, I know you have some comments with regards to this ordinance, sir.
No, just that we support Meals on Wheels. It's important, as we talk about the side effects of the pandemic, to realize that it exposed the need, the continued need, the increased need for our residents who are older, who are stuck at home and don't have access to healthy, warm meals. And these dollars support and allow for that. So I look forward to supporting.
Thank you, Council President. Councilman Remy?
Yeah, I'd just like to point out how great this program is. I delivered for probably 5 years over along Refugee out that way near Eastland. And just remind people, this is the second largest Meals on Wheels program in the United States.
Yes.
Second behind Houston, but the only one that gives immediate access to food, and they'll figure out the funding later. You could wait up to 6 months or 6 weeks or more down in Houston. So they do a really great job. It's expanded to several counties. I think they're up to 8 counties now. And so have to give them a lot of kudos for the work that they're doing and really helping to support people that need it. Thank you.
Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown, but I would also want to just state that this organization also, not only do they provide meals to seniors, but individuals who may have medical issues that prevent them from being able to physically move around, or any other illnesses that are medical challenges. And so it's not only seniors, but other individuals who may be in need of food. So just really appreciate this organization. I think most of us have had an opportunity to deliver meals, and what a blessing it is to take those meals into homes to individuals in our community. So thank you for this legislation.
Thank you, Councilman Tyson. If there are no additional comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson. President Harden.
Passed.
That's all I have this evening, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities Committee, chaired by Councilmember Dorans. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight in the Public Utilities Committee, I have ordinance number 2426-2021 to authorize the city attorney to file complaints in order to immediately appropriate and accept the remaining fee simple and lesser real estate necessary to timely complete the Central College Subtrunk Sewer Project, to authorize expenditure of $10,142 from the existing ACDI 001583-10 and to declare an emergency. The Department of Public Utilities is performing the Central College Subtrunk Sewer Project. The city must acquire certain fee simple real estate located in the vicinity of Central College Road and Harlem Road in the northeast area of the city in order for the department to timely complete this project. The city passed ordinance numbers 3428-2018, 0159-2021, and 1927-2021, authorizing the city attorney to require this real estate. The city's acquisition will help make improvements or repair certain portions of the public sewer infrastructure in the area. The city attorney, pursuant to Columbus City Code, Section 909.03, served notice to all the owners of the real estate of the public project's purpose and necessity and adoption of Resolution number 0274X-2019. However, the city attorney was unable to locate some of the real estate owners or agree with some of them in good faith regarding the amount of just compensation. Emergency action is requested in order to allow the Department of Public Utilities to timely complete this project without any unnecessary delay. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
The row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. May I move on to the Technology Committee?
Please.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance number 2400-2021 to authorize the Director of the Department of Technology to enter into a contract with CDW Government LLC to continue work on the telework program, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of City Code Chapter 329, to authorize the transfer of $2,343.74 from Object Class 03 to Object Class 06 within the Information Services Operating Fund, to authorize the expenditure of $330,106.49 from the Information Services Operating Fund, and to declare an emergency. As we all are aware, the Cisco Webex meeting is the city's standalone online meeting collaboration tool, which folks are on using right now for this council meeting. This has been critical for city employees who have been and are working remotely these past 18 months. This tool was important prior to the pandemic, but an absolute necessity as we continue to look for ways to conduct business safely. Additionally, Cisco Webex meeting services reduces travel time for city employees, vendors, and services, and hopefully makes us a little bit more accessible to members of the public. This ordinance requests waiver of the relevant sections of Chapter 329 pertaining to competitive bidding. The original contract was authorized by ordinance number 1798-2020. However, since CARES Act funds were used, the contract expired at the end of the year. Therefore, to continue to receive these services from our current vendor, it is necessary to waive competitive bidding for this contract. Doing so will help ensure a telework project will continue without any delays or disruptions. Emergency action is requested to initiate service from the contractor, again, to avoid any delays as required by passage or implementation of this by October 12th of 2021. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have one final piece of legislation in the Neighborhoods Committee, which is ordinance number 2665-2021 to authorize city clerk to enter a grant agreement with Community Development for All People in support of the South End Cafe project, to authorize an appropriation of expenditure within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund and to declare an emergency. Councilmember Remy, you and your team helped lead the way in drafting this ordinance, so I wanted to turn the floor over to you to speak a little more about this.
Thank you very much, Chair Dorans. Community Development for All People is in the process of launching a social enterprise called the South End Cafe. The cafe is designed to provide good paying jobs to those who are having a hard time finding employment, such as returning citizens and those who have been out of the workforce for an extended period of time. Positions in the cafe will be offered to people without prior experience, and employees will gain a work history and practical training of both soft and hard job skills that they will leverage into future employment opportunities. The cafe will also offer affordable, healthy meals in a neighborhood where access to healthy food is limited. Very excited about this project, and thank Chair Dorans and Council President Harden on this for joining in on this. This evening I have invited Mike Primo, the Director of Engagement for Community Development for All People, to share a few words about this project. Mike, if you're out there, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Member. It's great to be here tonight, and really excited for this project and really excited for the support from City Council. As the council member stated, the South End Cafe is it's going to be based on the south end of Columbus on Parsons Avenue. They're in the building that used to be called the South End Hotel and will be soon to be called the South End Hotel Apartments. The cafe has three goals. Number one, to provide quality employment opportunities for people who have had trouble getting employment. Second, to provide access to healthy food. We're going to have prepackaged food that folks can take with them or eat it there. And also to provide a place where community can come together and just bond and spend time together. And so we're really excited that this project is up and on its way, and it will be opening hopefully in February of 2022. We're very grateful to Councilmember Remy and Councilmember Dorans and Council President Hardin for their support of this, and want to thank you all for your continued support of Community Development for All People's work on transforming the South Side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate all the efforts that you're doing on the South Side and certainly this project. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay, Chair Dorans, I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Remy. And again, just want to echo your statements just about the great work that Community Development for All People is doing on the South Side. It's truly amazing work. And Mike, thanks for being here tonight, and certainly all the work on this project and the many others that are really doing a great job of helping to transform people's lives on the South Side in a very thoughtful way. With that, do any of my colleagues have any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, President Harden. That is all I have in my committees this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next committee coming before council is the Public Service Committee. Committee is chaired by Councilmember Favor. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Tonight in Public Service and Transportation, we have Ordinance 2517-2021 to authorize the City Attorney to file complaints in order to immediately appropriate and accept the remaining fee simple and lesser real estate necessary to timely complete the roadway improvements, Sullivan Avenue, Hague to I-70, to authorize an expenditure of $300 from existing ACD I001186-10 and to declare an emergency. The Department of Public Services completing the Sullivan Avenue Hague to I-70 project. This ordinance authorizes the City Attorney to acquire the remaining real estate necessary to complete the project. The project will be open to the public upon completion. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Madam Chair, can we restate the ordinance number, please?
Oh, is it not 25? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you can go ahead and pass that one or move that one.
Apologies.
No, it's fine.
2517-2021.
Is there a second? Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Going backwards, 2456-2021, to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter into contracts with Utility Truck Equipment Incorporated for the purchase of one splicing utility truck, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of City Code Chapter 329, to authorize the expenditure of up to $299,699 from the Municipal Motor Vehicle Tax Fund to purchase the truck and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes the purchase of one 37-foot intelligent transportation system splicing utility truck. This equipment is used to maintain the intelligent transportation system infrastructure throughout the city of Columbus and will provide the proper workspace for traffic fiber optic cable splicing. Assistant Director Borntrager, can you speak to the waiver of bidding provisions?
Council President, Chair Favor, thank you for having us tonight. Yes, we went out to bid and received one bid for this vehicle. However, it didn't quite meet specs due to some electrical outlets on one side and one that was placed in the back. Upon review with the division, the way that it was laid out met their criteria, and we asked to move forward with the purchase.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. May I move on to housing?
Please.
In housing, we have ordinance 2461-2021 to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget to authorize the city auditor to transfer funds within the Affordable Housing Bond Fund, to to authorize the Director of Department of Development to enter into a housing development agreement and a grant agreement in the amount up to $2,725,000 with the Columbus Housing Partnership, doing business as Homeport, and allow for expenses prior to the purchase order date for the Mulby Place apartment project. To authorize the expenditure of up to $2,725,000 from the Affordable Housing Bond Fund and to declare an emergency. This ordinance memorializes the city's commitment to Homeport's Mulby Place project with the first installment of affordable housing bond funds. Mulby Place will be located on the east side of Cleveland Avenue between Myrtle Avenue and Briarwood Avenue and will be in the nucleus of a new downtown part of the Linden neighborhood. Mulby Place will be a mix of 2- and 3-story buildings that will include 1- and 2-bedroom senior apartments with community spaces, retail, and outdoor areas. Director Stevens, would you like to add anything additional about the project?
Members of council, this will help support a 4% low-income tax credit deal that will ensure affordability at this project. We want to thank our partners at both Homeport and NextGen for getting us here. This is a great project, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. It's a very exciting project indeed. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. That's all I have in my committees.
Sorry, she had a speaker on 2461.
Okay.
My apologies.
No, you're fine. Madam Chair, while we're still in the committee, looks like there is a speaker on 2461.
I apologize, Mr. Wilkins.
Mr. Wilkins again. And he was speaking in favor of the
Yes.
legislation.
1612 Arlington Avenue, Mr. Lieutenant George Wilkins. I'm in favor of this, but it seems like we are leaving out the multi-disability people and visually impaired and hearing impaired. I know this is something I've really been looking forward to, a senior housing development, but it seems like we're leaving out certain kind of people with these ideas. I'm also questioning $875 million and 90 cents. It's because why I want to quest for this money. It seems like the other people are getting left out. I know the senior population is greatly needed for something like this, but I want to look at multi-disability, visually impaired and multi-handicapped and wheelchairs, accessibility and something like this. This is a great idea. This is long looked at it, but we have to look at some creativity ideas again in this. I'm all for this, but $25 million is not enough money for me, but I'm suggesting $875 million and 90 cents for this to take care of the multi-disability people, visually impaired, multi-handicapped that's sitting in wheelchairs, and the elderly population. This was decided to be tied into this property here. This is a huge piece of property. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your continued housing advocacy for the Linden community. Director Stevens, can you speak to just the particular constituent group that this new development will serve in the Linden community?
Yeah, thank you, President Harden, Chair Favor, members of council. This is going to serve the senior population. It will not exclude members who have certain disabilities, so we will make sure that it is accessible throughout, and we'll continue to work with our partners at Homeport to address some of the concerns raised by Mr. Wilkins.
Thank you. And for folks in the chambers that could not hear, it's a little low. Mr. Wilkins, Director Stevens said that the project will provide housing for folks who are disabled in different capacities. So it's not going to exclude anyone, but it's specific to our senior residents in Columbus. Any additional questions or comments? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Next committee to come before council is the Economic Development Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Remy. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. I have one ordinance tonight in economic development. It's ordinance number 2401, 2021, to set forth a statement of municipal services and zoning conditions to be provided to the area contained in a proposed annexation of 3.8 acres in Mifflin Township to the City of Columbus, as required by the Ohio Revised Code, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance is required by the Ohio Revised Code as enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Ohio. An annexation petition has been filed with Franklin County for this property. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues this evening? Seeing none, I first move to remove this ordinance from the table.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Removed.
And now I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Oh. Sorry. Next, I move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
That is all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The final committee to come before council is the Health and Human Services Committee, chaired by Councilmember Tyson. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I have ordinance 2548-2021. It's to authorize the director of the Department of Development to enter into a sub-recipient grant agreement with BISA Community, Inc. in support of the Community Recovery and Neighborhood Initiative to authorize expenditure within the recovery fund and to declare an emergency. This past year has underscored the critical role community services play in supporting the social well-being of vulnerable populations and communities. The pandemic has disproportionately affected communities of color and low-income communities across the nation. This has shed light on deep-rooted pre-existing racial, gender, income, and geographic disparities from one neighborhood to the next. This year, BISA Community, Inc. seeks to evolve its programming to better address the prevailing problem of inequity and the accessibility and distribution of community resources. In the last year, BISA has expanded nonprofit partnerships in many of Columbus's neighborhoods, such as Linden, the South Side, the Near East Side, and the West Side, primarily the Hilltop. BISA Community, Inc. has also significantly increased engagement with the New Salem Baptist Church's Food Pantry, the Bread of Life Food Pantry, and Life Care Alliance. While this work and these partnerships expansions have fallen under the umbrella of BISA Community, Inc.'s COVID response, BISA cannot simply end these engagements when COVID is no longer a threat to the community. Through the end of 2021, BISA Community, Inc. anticipates managing approximately 20 community recovery and basic needs projects per month, which will yield the following annual incomes: 240 volunteer engagement events with basic needs and critical service providers, 2,000 community residents activated through volunteerism, 5,000 collective service hours dedicated to essential service providing nonprofits, and $100,000 in tangible goods donations through COVID and community recovery supply drives. BISA anticipates the majority of this work will continue to be centered on food security, housing stability, emergency safety support, and workforce development, and working with job placement and career development partners. And I know that Matthew Goldstein, who's the president and CEO of BISA, is on the line to share additional comments. Mr. Goldstein.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Council President Harden and Chair Tyson and the rest of council, thank you for having me here tonight. It's good to be with everyone, and thank you for your service. I'll be real quick. I just wanted to, again, first thank you for bringing this to City Council tonight. A couple weeks ago, a handful of our volunteers were at a local food pantry, and afterwards, the director came to us and said, you know, because BESA was there, 500 families gained access to food. And that was just one of the projects that we do out of the hundreds every single year. The majority of these projects, as Chair Tyson shared, happen in communities that don't have equitable access to services and face inequities. And so it's important that we get community members, and BESA gets thousands of them, tens of thousands of them, where they're needed most. You know, a lot of the areas like the South Side, like the Hilltop, like Linden, and with a lot of the nonprofits that were mentioned earlier this evening, like Life Care Alliance and Community Development for All People. So I just wanted to thank you for considering this and this partnership. Everything we do is civic engagement, and there's no way we can do it as effectively as possible if we don't do it with the city of Columbus. So thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That's all I have in my committee this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go ahead and do if there's no further business coming before council, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. We have two non-agenda speakers, and I'm going to go ahead and move to have those speakers now while the directors are with us. Are you all ready? I heard that, Madam Chair. She said, we are ready. May I have a motion to convene meeting number 44, please?
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
We are now in the zoning committee. Councilmember chairs that committee and all.
Councilmember.
I apologize. I was not ready. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
We will now go to the zoning committee. All members serve on that committee. Councilmember Tyson chairs the committee. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Before beginning the zoning agenda, I'll briefly explain the rules of council as pertaining to speaking before council on zonings and variances. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents and 3 opponents, and we ask that they limit their remarks to 3 minutes on each side, and we provide an opportunity for rebuttal from the applicant. On the advice of the City Attorney's Office, anyone who wishes to speak for or against any council variance, including staff, must be sworn in prior to giving any testimony. We do so prior to beginning the reading of each variance on the agenda. The first ordinance on the agenda is 2396-2021 to rezone 2626 Johnstown Road, being .48 acres located on the north side of Johnstown Road, 520 feet east of North Cassidy Avenue, from the R Rural District to the M2 Manufacturing District. The applicant is Johnstown Road Development, care of Kyle Tucker. The proposed use is industrial uses. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the East Columbus Civic Association's recommendation is approval, 10-0. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I first move to waive second reading.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Waived.
Thank you, and now I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 2454-2021 to rezone 1335 Dublin Road, being 3.15 acres located on the southwest side of Dublin Road, 500 feet east of Stella Court, from the LCR Limited Commercial District to C3 Commercial District. The applicant is Face Forward Aesthetics, care of Amanda Mahoney. The proposed use is a neighborhood scale commercial uses. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the West Iota Commission's recommendation is approval, 6-0. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I first move to waive second reading.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Waived.
Thank you, and now I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 411-2021 to rezone 6145 West Broad Street, being 126.3 acres located on the south side of West Broad Street, southeast of the intersection of Alton Darby Creek Road, from the R Rural District to the CPD Commercial Plan Development District, PUD 6 Planned Unit Development District, and the LAR 12 Limited Residential District. The applicant is Blauser Capital Limited, care of attorney Jeff Brown. The proposed use is a mixed-use development. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Western Area Commission's recommendation is disapproval. So I'm first going to ask for a staff presentation. Kelsey, do you want to make the presentation?
Great. Good evening, members of council. This site is predominantly used for agricultural purposes and zoned in the R Rural District. It is known as the Blauser Tract, which was subject of rezoning application Z05-065 a mixed-use development proposal that received a recommendation of approval from the Development Commission at the January 10, 2008 meeting. The application was ultimately withdrawn due to unresolved traffic issues. The applicant requests the CPD Commercial Plan Development, PUD 6 Planned Unit Development, and LAR 12 Limited Apartment Residential Districts for a mixed-use development that is similar to the 2008 proposal. The CPD district is 30.4 acres and proposes a maximum of 150,000 square feet of limited C4 commercial district uses on subarea 1 and C2 commercial district uses on subarea 2. The PUD 6 district consists of 63.2 acres and proposes 191 single-unit dwellings on public streets. The LAR 12 district consists of 32.7 acres and proposes 260 apartment units. 37.7 acres of open space are provided throughout the site and will be maintained by the Owners Association or dedicated to the City of Columbus. The site is within the planning area of the Big Darby Accord Watershed Master Plan, which recommends commercial, residential, suburban, and Tier 1 and Tier 3 environmental conservation zones for this location. The Big Darby Accord Advisory Panel voted to recommend approval of the proposed development by a 7-0 vote, and their conditions of support have been incorporated into this proposal. The request complies with aspects of the Big Darby Accord Watershed Master Plan with regard to recommended density, improvements in water quality, groundwater recharge, and preservation of wooded areas and wetland and stream corridors. The request also includes substantial open space and preservation areas with pedestrian connections to the adjacent parkland. The developer is required to participate in the Big Darby Accord Revenue Program, which will generate funds for the Big Darby Accord purposes. City Department's recommendation is for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Kelsey? Seeing none, I'm first going to ask for a presentation by the applicant. So I'm going to ask Attorney Jeffrey Brown to come to the podium. And Attorney Brown, you can certainly, if you're going to have anyone else participate, you can certainly do that.
Thank you. Do I take this off or do I keep this on? If you can hear me. I am Jeffrey L. Brown, attorney for the applicant, President Hardin, zoning chair Tyson, members of council. I've worked on this property for nearly 20 years, and the joke in the office was my client wouldn't let me retire until I got the zoning in front of city council. So I'm getting closer to be able to do that. When we did this zoning in 2006, we were the first zoning that was approved by the Big Darby Accord. We were also approached by the city's Recreation and Parks Department, Alan McKnight. He was interested in two different pieces, which my client cooperated with the city, and we sold them to the city for recreation and open space. When we started this process again in 2018, we went back to the Big Darby Accord, where we received unanimous approval of our zoning. We went to the Development Commission, where we received unanimous approval of the proposal. And as city staff has indicated, they are in favor of this request. When it comes down to this development, when we initially had it, we didn't have any buyers for the property. We now have a buyer for the single family, which is Pulte. The buyer for the multifamily is Herman and Kittle. You know them because they've done several workforce housing multifamily developments in this city. So as part of the presentation tonight, we have requested an amendment to this zoning to be able to commit to a site plan and building elevations for the multifamilies. So what you see is what's going to be built on the multifamily property. Now, when we engaged with the neighbors over a series of meetings, we unfortunately could not get their support. Two main issues dealt with flooding and stormwater. As staff has indicated, this property is a farm. If you've ever seen a farm, there is no contouring. There is sheet flow. When rain hits, it runs to the lowest point, and there are farm tiles. Well, if those farm tiles aren't maintained, water gets backed up. So that's the existing condition. When you talk about development, one, you grade the site, you create the required detention areas so that the water that hits your site or the water that is generated by your new construction, new pavement, runs where it's supposed to, gets into the detention system on your property, and then gets released over time into a city-approved stormwater system. In addition to this area, staff has indicated, it is in the Big Darby. So the portions that are related to the Darby have additional requirements when it comes to dealing with stormwater. So what we do, as you've heard before in this process, our engineers propose something. It is then sent to the city engineers department, who they review it for compliance with their requirements. If we comply, they issue a permit. If we don't, then we have to redo our plans. So in terms of stormwater, there are all sorts of checks and balances that have to be observed and approved before we can put a shovel in the ground. And as for the flooding, I've explained what happens with the farm field, and when you have development, then you have controls, you have curbs and gutters, you have your own storm system that catches that water, because you are required under the city code and state law to handle the water that comes on your property and then release it according to the city specifications. Carolyn Kimmel with Herman and Kittles is here. Our engineer is here. We can go in as much detail as you would like in terms of the multifamily or the stormwater, but I just wanted to hit those main points in terms of the process that we've gone through and the future process that we have to go in terms of the engineering of this site.
Thank you, Attorney Brown. Could you just share a little bit about the multifamily? Maybe Caroline can share that. Good evening, Caroline.
Hi, good evening. Like Jeff said, my name is Caroline Kimmel. I'm with Kittle Property Group out of Indianapolis. This development will consist of 260 units of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units, similar to the other projects that KPG has done in the Columbus MSA. We will have a full amenity package, and that will include a clubhouse with a fitness center, a business center, on-site leasing, a pool, a playground, and other outdoor amenities. And we will also have a wide variety of building types, which includes 1-story cottages, 2-story walk-up, and 3-story walk-up apartments that meet the height requirements and other requirements for the LAR 12 zone. Not sure how much detail you want me to go into about the units themselves, but again, similar to Riverside Trail and Windmiller Point, both here in Columbus, that you all have seen before. So,
thank you.
Other questions?
I think Councilmember Favor has a question.
Good evening.
Hi.
As Chair of Housing, very familiar with Herman and Kittle and the work that you all have done in Columbus thus far. And most the 2 projects that have come before council have all been 60% AMI, which is we are in desperate need of all housing solutions in Columbus right now. But definitely 60% and below is something that piques my interest all the time. Can you talk about the affordability for this planned development?
Yes, this is 100% of the units at 60% AMI.
And we're talking studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3s.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other questions before we? Because once we hear our speakers, they will certainly get an opportunity to come back and share information. Attorney Brown, is there anything else you want to state?
Just one other thing, as you might expect, we actually had to do a traffic study, which has been reviewed and accepted by the city. Those requirements are contained in the ordinance. We were also asked recently if we would agree not to bring construction traffic through the subdivision to the east of our property, and I've talked to both Pulte and Caroline, and they're both amenable to do that so that we would not take any of our construction traffic through that subdivision.
Thank you. We will now have, we have 2 speakers, and we do have one letter that came to us from Mr. Robert McElney. And so he sent a letter opposing this rezoning application. But the 2 speakers that are here this evening would be Ms. Janet Cahill. Ms. Cahill, please feel free to come up to the podium and state your name, who you represent, and you have 3 minutes. Good evening, Ms. Cahill.
This will make it a little easier. Can you hear me okay? My name is Janet Cahill. I am the president of the Summerlin Homeowners Association, a single-family development west of the Blauser Farm. I hope you've all read testimony from Robert McElhaney, along with photos of flooding, and you've received many other emails from Summerlin residents objecting to this zoning. Summerlin zoning was approved without Westland Area Commission approval based on water issues. 13 years and 3 builders later, Pulte built the last homes bordering the Blauser Farm. Once zoning is approved and safeguards promised disappear, the builders get creative. We live with that creativity every day. Our sump pumps run constantly, and many homes have extensive foundation issues. We have an 8-acre retention pond draining to city sewers. They plan to have holding basins. We oppose this plan as the west side of the farm is already a holding basin. We are downhill from the farm's Scioto watershed, and we will be watching to see how they get water to flow uphill. In 2019, the traffic study did not include Rockbrook Crossing, which is our single road in and out. With plans to connect 2 of our internal streets, we are stunned at the lack of planning for our traffic situation and safety. Our streets are 50 feet wide, cars parked on both sides, and 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. This zoning should commit, thank you, Jeff, to preventing construction traffic from coming through Summerlin and install lowrider speed strips at the Tooley Cross and Brea property lines where streets connect. That would also hold back some water. 576 apartments in 3 complexes have been built within a mile in the last 2 years. This development will add another 260. The 2020 census shows Columbus grew 15%, and the Westland area grew 12%. We were happy about that. The average number of people per household in Columbus is 2.39. This 1 square mile area will soon have 5,848 people. Now here's the eye-opener. You are being asked to approve workforce affordable housing when there is no public transportation. CODA stops in Prairie Township, a mile away. No police substation, no fire station in the Westland Commission area, no Columbus Public Schools, no senior center, no Columbus Recreation Center, no basketball courts, and not even a place to hold a public meeting. Does it make sense to push for more housing of any kind when the 38,000 people in the Westland Commission area pay city taxes but have none of these? Most think public services are automatic in Columbus, but not in Westland area west of 270. We ask you to vote no on this application and ask council to provide the Westland area basic city services before approving more underserved communities. Thank you for considering our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cahill. Are there any questions for Ms. Cahill? Councilmember Favor.
Thank you for your testimony this evening. So if the issue around the services were resolved, would you be able to get over the hurdle of the zoning in itself?
The water control is a major.
It would still be a
because
problem for you.
I know they say that flooding is a 5-year event, but I've lived there 6 years, and we've had major flooding every other year, at least every other year. And this is to the extent where some pumps don't last much longer than a year, cracks in foundations, lots of water, mold issues, and so forth. And these are $350,000 homes. So, yeah, the water, controlling the water coming to us. You know, this farm has two floodplains, the 100-year floodplain, 2 watersheds, several wetlands, and the protected Clover Grove Creek, Reese Ditch, and I think Hell Branch, something or other. So these are a lot of water features on one parcel, and you would be hard-pressed to find a parcel with one of those. So there really is a lot to work around. And we're just asking for protections, you know, of our property.
Okay. Well, I think, you know, I don't want to speak to just the water issues alone, but I wanted to just hit the validity of your points around transportation.
Yes.
Right. And so, you know, that is something I would love to continue to work with Councilmember Tyson on. To your point, Columbus did grow and is continuing to grow, and we have to have places for people to live.
Right.
And so I appreciate the point, and it's something that I would love to work with my colleague on to ensure that we have transportation for residents.
Because I would think people renting these apartments would want to get on a bus.
Absolutely.
And even with the Linkus.
Absolutely.
It doesn't plan to come out to Columbus city limits to us. So
Thank you.
we would like that a lot.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cahill. The next speaker is Mr. Mike McKay. Now, Mr. McKay, as you come to the podium, please state your name and who you represent. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mike McKay. I'm the Zoning Committee Chairman for the Westland Area Commission, and I'm here tonight on behalf of our commission and explain our position. So the primary issue that we have great concern about is the stormwater remediation and flooding and the impact that will be caused by building apartments on the site. The site is in the Big Darby Accord area. It sits on 2 different watersheds. It's predominantly heavy clay soil with low infiltration rates, and standing water runoff to neighboring properties, and flooding has been a big problem for decades, actually. The applicant acknowledges these facts, but rather than design a plan that to the farm's natural stormwater volume, their plan involves an alternative stormwater management system, i.e., this development will not have a traditional sewer system, and it directs the stormwater to protected wetlands and a stream. There's also no maintenance, no plan for maintenance of this alternative stormwater system. In order for this system to be effective over the long term, it must be maintained on a regular basis, just like the city sewer system. If it's not maintained, the applicant's engineers have told us, the whole system will fail. Language needs to be added, either by council or by public utilities, that specifies what maintenance tasks are necessary, the schedule for when those tasks need to occur, and the entity responsible for the long-term maintenance and regular inspection of the stormwater system on the site. Leaving the responsibility for maintenance of the system to the individual homeowners and the commercial owners is not acceptable. People stay in their homes on an average 10 years. The original owners might have some idea of how the system's supposed to work, but the next owners, they wouldn't have any idea of what this alternative stormwater system is in their backyard, how it's supposed to work, what they need to do to maintain it. And that's when the system would begin to fail. And that's why we have to have language that specifies the maintenance tasks, the schedule, and names the entity responsible. It has to be handled in a single, uniform manner that addresses all sub-areas of the development, and it must be handled by an entity that's qualified and trained to maintain this type of system. Primary concern we have is with the apartments. Plan calls for 260 apartments. Those will come with large paved parking lots, rooftops that will drain all their stormwater into wetlands and will be a tremendous strain on the land that's already under pressure to handle current stormwater without flooding. The inclusion of the apartments in this plan is simply too much demand on an unproven stormwater system, and the risk should not be taken. Apartments would be a larger contributor to the stormwater runoff problem than single-family homes. Now they'd be the largest contributor to increased traffic through the neighboring Summerlin neighborhood. We're not opposed to apartments in the Westland area. In fact, there's 194 units going in right across West Broad Street from this site. As we speak, this property, we're just not opposed to, we're opposed to apartments on this site. This property is not conducive to apartments. The Westland Area Commission voted to approve this application, voted to approve it, with the exception of the apartments. The vote was 7-5. Each of the 7 votes in favor of the motion were opposed to the inclusion of the apartments in the plan. The 5 members who voted against it had different explanations, but I can assure you that over 90% of our members are either opposed to the apartments or have serious concerns about them on the site. Westland Area Commission respectfully asks that you require stormwater maintenance language be added and that you support our motion to approve the request with the exception of the apartments.
Thank you. Are there any questions that I'm going to have the applicant as well as I think I'll have the city address this issue on stormwater, but are there any comments from my colleagues? Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I will first have, I'm going to have Attorney Brown to certainly address some of the concerns that came up. Again, the holding basin, the traffic, there's no recreation in the community, and again, I think it's still around stormwater and the parking lots. Sure. So can you please address those issues?
Kelsey, could you pull up the aerial? When it comes to traffic, you will see on the aerial that there are 3 streets from the existing subdivision that dead end into the farm. And we've continued 2 of those streets per the request of traffic and the planning department to connect 2 neighborhoods. The 3rd connection at the south end isn't extended because that goes into our open space that we are preserving. When you look at the development at the corner, you will see the Prairie Township Rec Center. That is open to both residents of the township and non-residents. So in terms of recreational opportunities, you can walk to it from this development. In terms of the multifamily, they have their own recreation. As Caroline indicated, they have a clubhouse, they have a swimming pool, they have playground equipment, so they meet that on their own site. But then we have that rec center within walking distance. The other item about traffic is when we did the zoning on the north side of the street, part of that required that developer to put in a traffic light. So there'll be a traffic light at the extension of this subdivision street to West Broad Street and Doherty Road on the north. So you now have better access with turning lanes as part of that zoning that was done on the north side. When it comes to the stormwater, I said it's a farm. You can see what happens when it's a farm piece of property. Water hits, water runs to the lowest point. If you had field tiles, maybe you carry some of that away. If those have been blocked, you have ponding. All you have to do is drive by a large farm area, and you kind of wonder why the farmer never farms in this part, because it's wet and stays wet. When it comes to the development, there is a handbook that the city has and updates on a regular basis that controls how we do the stormwater. It's not something that this is what we want or this is our solution. It's what the city mandates in terms of handling the quality and the quantity of the stormwater. Now, our engineer is here, or you can talk to your staff. We can go in as much detail. But basically, we have to design the system that handles the water coming onto our property and the water that we're generating. So we have to control it, we have to improve the quality, and then we have to release it over time into a city stormwater system. So we're going to have stormwaters, we're going to have a sanitary system. You know, you flush the toilet, it goes into a city pipe, and ultimately gets treated. So when you look at all those things, there are safeguards in place where we do the engineering, your engineers review it, and if they think that we have met all the requirements, and not only do you have the book, you've got the appendix or whatever they call it, which is the extra regulations that deal with the Big Derby. All those requirements we have to meet in order to get a building permit. Again, if you want to look at that, at the upper right corner, that little white rectangle is the rec center, and then you can see the street stubs that come into our development that we are merely picking up per traffic and per the planning department to continue that connection.
Additional questions for Attorney Brown? I'm going to ask, I think Director Davies and be on the call, so Director Davies can also just really address the stormwater management policy.
Thank you, Chair Tyson, members of council. Detailed design plans, including a stormwater management plan, aren't submitted during the zoning process. Should the zoning be approved, a stormwater master plan would be required and submitted during the site plan process. As a part of the stormwater master plan, the developer would be required to adhere to the city's stormwater drainage manual, as well as the Darby Accord, before any site plan approvals could happen or any construction.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions for the Director? Councilmember Dorrance, yes.
Thank you, Chair Tyson. Director Davies, can you speak to the part, and maybe Attorney Brown can speak to this as well. So I think one very specific concern that was brought up by the Area Commission was that long-term maintenance to make sure that what is being required continues to do the job in which it's being improved. Obviously, I think none of us want to make sure that that long-term maintenance is held continued. Director Davies or Attorney Brown, can you speak to the expectation of how the system will be maintained, speaking directly to the concerns of the Area Commission?
Thank you. I have not seen any detailed plans on this yet, so I don't know exactly what's going to be submitted, but typically if you get in, it depends on how they do their stormwater plan. Maybe Attorney Brown can fill me in a little bit on what they're proposing.
Well, the city code requires maintenance of any detention ponds and everything, so we will have to meet that requirement. There's also reporting requirements for the Big Darby that we'll have to make sure in terms of any of our water that we are meeting those requirements. And Tim, you want to come up? I mean, our engineers here, I mean, we can get in the weeds.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful just to speak again to that long-term maintenance concern that I think was very specifically articulated by the Commission.
Hello, Tim Volchko with CEC. Yeah, the City of Columbus stormwater regs actually have specific requirements for how detention basins or other BMPs are maintained, and it's actually part of our plan set. So it will be part of the approved storm sewer plan.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Councilmember Elizabeth Brown.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. This is not so much a question as I just want to be really fair to the residents here who mentioned the dearth of amenities out in the Westland area. And Attorney Brown, I appreciate your point about the Prairie Township Recreation Center, but really what I've heard from residents is that doesn't cut it for many reasons. One of them being that it's expensive for people who don't live in the township, and the other being it's not really suited for the needs of the residents there. So I do think that no matter what, and I'm very supportive of the affordable housing on this property, and I want to be upfront about that, but I also want to be clear that we've got work to do in terms of amenities in the Westland area. And I'm trying to work with the Recreation and Parks Department to get us there because it's important. And we know that as additional people move into the area, it only becomes that much more important. So I just want to be clear about that. And thank you for all the testimony tonight.
Councilmember Brown, E. Brown. So yes, when this issue was brought up through our discussions, and I just have to say I've appreciated all the discussions that I've had with Ms. Cahill, Mr. McKay, and their, I can't think that the chair of the commission right now, and listening to some of the issues that they brought up. And one of them certainly was around the recreational facility. And this is just really an issue for, I think, for this council, for the administration, that as we are continuing to grow our community and we know the numbers of people that are going to be coming into our community, that we really do need to start to think about those amenities. Absolutely, we did purchase land. When I first came to council, I was up at the area commission, and I know we had purchased land in that area. And so either we need, if we're going to continue to add people to certain areas, we do have to think about amenities within those communities. And we've heard, and I want to talk just about this particular one, but there's some on other areas of our community where there don't tend to be a lot of recreational activities for young people. So, and we're just for our community period. So, this particular property does have some amenities that are going to be for the individuals that are going to be there, because if you have 1 to 4 unit buildings, you're going to have children and you're going to have families. So we do need to continue to ensure that that we're looking for the future of our community. Are there any other questions or comments? Councilmember Dorrance.
Thank you, Chair Tyson. For Attorney Brown, just talking again specific around the sewer issue. So the commission was supportive of the other elements of the project other than the apartments here. Is there any difference between the storm water mitigation between those two parts of the project?
Between the apartments and the commercial?
Correct. It's all one plan, right?
Well, because it will come in over a period of time, you will have a plan for the multifamily, you will have a plan for the single family, and you'll have a plan for the commercial. But in terms of how the city would look at how all those three mesh together.
Right, so it not as if we would not be ignoring the other elements of the project as those approvals move their way through
No,
the
I mean,
process.
as you go through this process, as each piece comes in, it has to meet the stormwater requirements. So they'll be doing engineering with the single family, and just like we did with the multifamily, when the commercial gets ready to be developed or the office out there, they will have to come up with their own stormwater plan and share that with the city and get their review and approval.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I don't see any other questions for Attorney Brown. And so again, we've had a number of conversations with the residents regarding this particular development. And based upon that, I am in the Development Commission approval, the Big Darby approval, the staff approval. I am moving forward in recommendation of approval of this particular zoning. And so I am moving forward. Okay, I'm sorry. Got lots of. So first, I would first move to waive second reading.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorrance, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Waived.
Thank you. I now move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorrance, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
And lastly, I move for passage as amended.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorrance, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. Thank you. The next ordinance is 2798-2020 to rezone 6881 Thompson Street, being 8.26 acres located on the north of terminus of Thompson Street, 1,260 feet west of Linworth Road, from the LC2 limited commercial to RR rural residential and PUD4 planned unit development districts to LAR1 limited apartment residential district. The applicant is the Burke LLC, care of attorney Jeff Brown. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the far northwest coalition's recommendation is disapproval, 7-0. I would now like to ask for a staff presentation.
The site is developed with single-unit dwellings in the LC2 Limited Commercial, RR Rural Residential, and PUD4 Planned Unit Development Districts. The proposed LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District will permit a multi-unit residential development with a maximum of 139 units. The site is located within the boundaries of the Northwest Plan, which recommends mixed-use 1 along West Dublin-Granville Road and low-density residential for the northern parcels. The plan recognizes that higher densities may be appropriate where more intense uses are present. The plan also recommends consideration of compatibility with adjacent uses and impacts on natural resources when reviewing higher density proposals. Additionally, the plan provides design guidelines regarding sensitive site design, building materials, front elevations, open space, tree preservation, and connectivity. The Planning Division staff has determined that the proposed development meets the higher density criteria in the Northwest Plan with its location immediately adjacent to West Dublin-Granville Road and more intense commercial uses, and its inclusion of open space, natural resource protection, and buffering for the single-unit dwellings to the north. Therefore, City Department's recommendation is for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kelsey. Are there any questions for Kelsey? Seeing none, I am going to ask Attorney Jeffrey Brown to give a presentation, please, on this application.
Good evening again. Jeffrey L. Brown, attorney for the applicant, President Hardin, Chairman Tyson, members of council. This seems to be the multifamily night discussion. This property, if you would show the aerial again, is on the north side of 161. The frontage of 161 in this area is zoned commercial. This property has a couple houses on it, and it's got a lot of wooded area and a lot of topo. So when you look at that, you will see the commercial in front. You will see the multifamily that's on the other side of the property. You'll see the railroad tracks to the east. To the north is a single-family development, a cul-de-sac. And when you look at that little rectangle there in terms of the Thompson Road and where's that stop, basically we leave the house there and some outbuildings, but all that development that we're doing comes forward. So when you look at that, at the northern property line, there's the stream protection corridor that is established by the city, which you basically can kind of walk through but not do anything. So that's our northern boundary. To the left side of that, toward the curve there, is what we call our amenity zone. And again, we don't have any apartment buildings there or anything like that, nor do we have any access to that street, which is McVeigh. We also have an undisturbed strip along there of 20 feet in width because that's a wooded area, and we said that we would do that. When it comes to the actual development, Kelsey, if you could go to the site plan. If you look at this again, you will see where that road kind of ends. You will see that we have two apartment buildings there, and then there's the outbuildings and the two single-family houses to the north. We originally proposed 3 buildings. We reduced that to 2. We reduced the number of units, multifamily units, from 154 to 137. We committed to a site plan, building elevations. The architect is here if you have any questions about the building. But our emphasis in terms of how the architect laid that out was to push things to 161. So again, that northern area is the stream protection corridor, which is controlled by the city. The area to the west is the amenity zone. And we had some language in there that probably didn't make anybody comfortable, saying that we could use that area for such as, but not limited to. Attorneys will like that language, but neighborhoods really don't. So we got very specific in the amendment that you have, talks about exactly what can go in the amenity zone. An auxiliary structure, 1 solid fireplace wall, 3 open sides and roof structure, lighted pathway, pedestrian bridge, dog park, garden, gathering and picnic areas, fire pit, and open space. So we now specify what can go on that, And we committed to the site plan, and you see where the buildings are. The buildings are out toward 161, not back to the neighborhood. So we went to the Development Commission. They recommended approval. We worked with the planning and zoning staff to get their support in terms of the level of commitment that we made and how we oriented the buildings and the activity. 161, always a traffic discussion. We did a traffic study which was reviewed and accepted by the city. We are doing the required improvements that are related to us. It's also my understanding that the city, working with the township, the state, and I believe Worthington, has a project to improve the intersection of Linworth and 161. So there are traffic improvements that are coming to this area. So that is the proposal. As I said, we got the support of the Development Commission and the zoning staff, and I'm happy to answer any questions. As I said, my architect's here, the client's here, if you have any questions for either one of them.
Thank you, Attorney Brown. Are there any questions for Mr. Brown?
What's the mix again of the housing?
The housing, it's 139 units. That were, yes. Yes. So, Attorney Brown, do you want to share? So there's what you had 154 units, now 137. Can you talk about the mix of those units?
They're a mixture of 1 and 2 bedroom units.
Thank you. All right. We have 2 speakers here that are speaking against the project. We have first Mr. Aaron Newman. And then after Mr. Newman, it'll be Bill Pearson. So, Mr. Newman, please come state your name and who you represent. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you all. It's good to see you all again in person. It's been a while. Good evening. I'm Aaron Newman with the Far Northwest Coalition of Columbus, here to share about our unanimous vote to recommend that City Council disapprove the rezoning and variance for the proposed development at 6181 Thompson Street. Thanks so much to Chair Tyson. Thank you, President Hardin, and all members of council. And thanks, as always, to the great city staff for the time spent on these issues. There remain, however, substantial concerns about this proposed development held by the board of the Far Northwest Coalition and residents alike, concerns that brought hundreds of our neighbors to speak out in public hearings and correspondence against the applications, and concerns that led our board to vote unanimously to recommend disapproval in April 2019. Specific remaining concerns include, in part, the additional traffic, as mentioned, on the underdeveloped 2-lane West Dublin-Granville Road, in connecting streets to surrounding neighborhoods, the height of the buildings, and a rooftop pool, noted as designed for a downtown hotel that will impose upon the privacy and well-being of surrounding neighbors, the development of one of the few remaining tracts of green space left in the Far Northwest, the continued avoidance of clarity on the applicant's intended use for the amenity zone, not just what can go in there, but what will go in there, and simply put, the 3-story multi-unit high-density development does not conform to the neighboring low-density residential areas and single-story small businesses. There are no neighboring multi-unit properties next to this property. This rezoning is, simply put, a bad fit for this site. The board has seen no substantive attempt to address these substantive concerns, and the applicant has not considered reasonable suggestions from our board or residents that might have impacted our recommendation, such as adjusting the proposed high density to medium or adjusting to 2 stories, adding turn lanes or other substantial traffic mitigation features, formally protecting the green space, clarifying again the intended use of the amenity zone, developing a perhaps senior residence or assisted living facility at the site, or seizing the opportunity to build much needed affordable housing in this land. As noted already tonight, we need affordable housing to grow Columbus. We don't need this development. We would, of course, invite the applicant to continue working with our board and residents to find an appropriate use that will benefit everyone in the city. And we always welcome sustainable, beneficial growth in the Far Northwest. We are proud of our very high approval, recommendation to approval rate in the Far Northwest. Had I time, I'd also love to discuss a few process concerns with this application, including the seeming rush for a vote after years of inactivity, with the committee and applicant providing updated information to our board as late as this weekend without a chance for timely dissemination to our residents. The final staff report was not made available and is not available, as far as I know, still on the Building and Zoning portal. I'm almost done, leaving vital information out of the hands of the public as the council votes, and the unfortunately evident impression received that residents' concerns were incorrect or invalid or both at times in this decision process. Thanks again for your time and consideration of our recommendation to disapprove this development.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Are there any questions for Mr. Newman? Thank you. Seeing none. The next speaker will be Mr. Pearson. Good evening, Mr. Pearson. Please state your name and who you represent.
Thank you.
You have 3 minutes.
My name is Bill Pearson. I'm a resident of 161, and I'm here to basically echo everything that Aaron just said, with the addition of, I understand they have done traffic studies, of course, and there's been many, many, many traffic studies, many plans to widen that road and so forth, but never, never, never has anything really been addressed about doing so. The traffic there is so bad, it's 5 to 6 to 7 minutes to get out of my driveway. The accidents, the people running off the road into the side ditches, just a very common occurrence. To sit there and add 139 units is just going to compound the problem. It's when we bought our homes, we looked at 4 units per acre. I believe that's the existing zoning over there. But to go ahead and cram 139 units into just over 8 acres just seems to be an atrocity. Above and beyond that, the cul-de-sacs that they've proposed to capture the drainage water, I do understand probably those help in a short storm, maybe in a 2-hour storm or something like that. But I live on a ravine, and the entire back of the property, if you were to see it from the ground level, is just washing out underneath. At some point, some of those houses are going to have serious foundation problems because of the washout. I just don't think it's adequate. They've never addressed really doing what needs to be done by putting like a stormwater sewer down 161, putting the turning lane down 161. All I'm saying is they're just putting the cart before the horse, and I just hate to see it. The traffic, like I say, if you were ever to drive out of my driveway at 1950 West Dublin Granville Road, you would certainly see what I mean. And it's almost all the time anymore, almost all the time during the daytime that, is just that much of an atrocity to try to drive out of there. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson, for coming and sharing your comments. Are there any questions or comments from Mr. Pearson? And we certainly want to address those issues. Yes, Councilmember.
Yes, I think Attorney Brown might be coming up to address the issues. Thank you.
Yes. And then we will have other comments from having discussions with the community. Attorney Brown.
Again, I understand traffic in terms of 161. My client can't solve all the problems on 161. What he can do and has done is meet the city's requirement of the traffic study and then implementing those improvements that are required. That is part of the zoning right now. So we are handling that portion of it. And as I indicated earlier, the city and the various jurisdictions are working on the improvement that will extend to Thompson Road of the Linworth and 161 intersection. What we tried to do with this development is, one, respect the topography and the tree stands that are on this property, because it goes at the north end high and then it kind of goes down and kind of comes back up. And so, as you saw from the aerial in our site plan, we moved our now 2 buildings as forward as far as you can, because what we're trying to do is make that kind of an urban experience, a walkable experience, There's that whole row of commercial right there. And so we've got buildings right on our property line to create that sort of feel. And there's a council variance on next, if you would approve the zoning, that will allow us to put the buildings where we want them to go. But by doing that and bringing the buildings up, we're 300 feet away from our north property line. We're a football field away, not from their house, but from their property line. And so we think in terms of what's between where our buildings are and the property line, we've done what a responsible developer should do. We've reduced the number of buildings, we've reduced the density. We said no access to McVeigh, which is that side street that they were concerned about. We created an undisturbed 20-foot buffer along that way. We've limited the activities that can go on in the amenity. I agree with Aaron. I mean, some of this was last minute, but we were trying to respond to various questions that we got from council members. So the amendment that you have specifies what can go on that in the amenity zone. We've committed to the site plan. We've committed to the building elevations. This is an appropriate use of the property, and other than go away, we've tried to respond positively to all the things that we were asked to do.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. And again, I just want to go over a couple of comments that were made. So this particular zoning started really in 2019, and here we are now in 2021. And so if you think about the time, I don't want anyone to ever feel like we have rushed process. We have probably taken significant amount of time, not only looking at this zoning, but the previous zoning, and the amount of time to work with the residents to try to figure out some ways of to try to be more accommodating in this process. And so I do want to make a few comments. So on this particular one, understanding what 161 is like if you've driven on that street. So there are times, and I've been up there now because of this particular zoning, probably a good 4 to 5 times to just drive up and down 161, as well as to drive probably 4 times down McVeigh, because that was a concern. It wasn't brought up today because I think that we've dealt with that. But most importantly, when we think about 161, and as you just stated, that you think that the city is working on kind of this traffic issue. And the city is absolutely working on this traffic issue for putting in a significant contribution to 161. So because I initially, when this zoning came to us, based upon some of the challenges that are on 161, that Director Gallagher, working with, I think it's Prairie Township, it's Worthington, City of Columbus, to be able to ensure, working with MORPC, that already there's a $7.5 million planning grant, but there's also not only that planning money, but the construction will actually take place in 2025 and 2026. So that is significant in this community. And so, this construction will go right up to Thompson. So it's not the entire street, but it's enough that we will not continue to have a type of bottlenecks that are there. And the bottlenecks are not all the time. The bottleneck, you have traffic like everywhere else in the city. What we're beginning to see is that we're going to have more traffic just based upon having more people. I do appreciate that this development has moved forward, so it's not overlooking or so close to individuals' homes. The other question that comes up, and I think we have addressed it, I don't know, a number of times with the coalition around this area, and you stated about the amenity zone. And so I know Mr. Newman just stated again that they don't know what's going to be in that amenity zone. Can you please share again what the plans are for that amenity zone?
What we've done with the site plan, we've hatched that area, and so that area is all spelled out along with the stream corridor. And the only thing that you can do in those is available. It says Amenity Zone area is available for the following activities and facilities. 1 ancillary structure, 1 solid fireplace wall, 3 open sides and a roof structure, lighted pathways, and we have a limitation in terms of the height of any lighting in the code of 48 inches. Pedestrian bridge, dog park, garden, gathering, picnic areas, fire pit, and open space. I don't know how any of those would be perceived as being objectionable.
Yes, because the information that was communicated that the developer wanted to put a, like a garage, not a garage, a barn on
yes,
there.
ma'am. Initially, my client thought about relocating a barn, and I think that is probably what sent some alarms off. Although to have a farm structure on a piece of property, I'm not sure why, but you know, we've done away with that. This is all that you can do. We can have 1 structure, which basically has a roof, a firewall, and open on 3 sides, like a shelter house that you would have, and 1 at the city parks.
Okay. And again, it's 139 units, and there are units across the street on Thompson, correct?
On the south side of 161,
yes.
yes, ma'am. There's
Yes,
a
they are.
multifamily development over there.
Thank you. Are there additional questions for Mr. Brown?
Councilmember Tyson?
Yes,
Did,
Councilmember.
Attorney Brown, did you speak to the remediation or the changes to the application regarding the adjacent stream that the gentleman spoke about to the project?
Well, 2 things will happen. 1, at the northern end of the property, as shown on the site plan, as I've pointed out, is the stream corridor protection zone. And that is, again, something in the stormwater manual where the city looks at a particular drainage area and draws a width around the stream. And so that is protected in terms of the trees and the shrubberies, so that helps with the water quality. In terms of our stormwater, again, we have to engineer that and submit it to the city for their review. I don't know, I mean, if they're having some flooding now, I would suspect it's probably coming from off the property and running through that stream. But again, anything that we would be doing would have to be engineered and then reviewed and approved by the city before we could start construction.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Harden. And then for the stream corridor protection zones, the only things that are permitted there, and again, as part of the Columbus Stormwater Manual, are, you know, hiking, fishing, picnicking, maintenance activities by the city personnel. What's not permitted are mowing, herbicide or pesticides, removal of native trees and vegetation, dumping, buildings and then structures, fences, signs, farming, etc. So, are there any questions for Mr. Brown, Attorney Brown? Thank you. And again, I really do appreciate the opportunity to work with our area commissions, our community organizations, for them to provide information to us and for us to be able to, you know, they ask us questions to be able to react to those and provide information back to them. Again, these will be market rate housing, which we are certainly in need of that in our community. And so if there are no other questions or comments, I'm in support of this legislation. So first and foremost, I would move to waive second reading.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. I'd now like to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. Now I move for passage as amended.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. The last ordinance in this committee this evening is a variance. So anyone here who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. It's ordinance 2799-2020 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3333.02, AR 12, ARLD, and AR 1 apartment residential district use, 3312.27 parking setback line, and 3321.05 A1 B1 vision clearance, 33.18 building lines, 33.255 perimeter yard of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 6181 Thompson Street to permit single unit dwellings and reduced development standard for a multi-unit residential development in the LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is the Burke LLC, care of Attorney Jeff Brown. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Far Northwest Coalition's recommendation was disapproval, 7-0. We do not have any speakers on the variance, and so I will now, first I would move to waive second reading.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Waived.
Thank you. I now ask for a motion to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council for 2799-2020.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Got it.
Thank you. I now move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
Does someone move to grant the variance in 2799-2020 as amended? Move to grant the variance in 2799-2020 as amended.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. Thank you.
Passed.
That concludes the zoning agenda this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we end zoning, this is Miss Angie Burke's last meeting with council, and I don't know if she can, I do know she can hear us on Webex, so I would ask that Miss Angie turn her camera on for us. Miss Angie has served many different roles for City Council over several years, but I can say that we could not run or operate council business during the pandemic, since the pandemic, without the very, very hard work of Miss Angie. We are so grateful for you, for keeping us running, keeping us able to do the people's business. Are there any comments by my colleagues before I ask Miss Angie to say a few words?
I will, definitely. Angie, hi, this is Councilmember Tyson. Thank you so much for your service to City Council, and you've certainly done an amazing job of working with us, and especially during this pandemic, we could count on you to ensure that we were able to serve our residents virtually, and we would not have been able to do this work without you. I also have appreciated your work within working in human resources, working on our contracts and grants, and just being, working in the clerk's office to make all of us better and to serve the residents of our community. You will be sorely missed certainly by me. I just appreciate you, and I wish you just the very best as you continue to move forward in your career. So the best to you and your family, and blessings to you.
So, Ms. Angie, I just wanted to also extend my appreciation and congratulations for you as you start your new opportunity. You were one of the first people to welcome me at City Hall and just took care of everything I didn't even know that I needed. You were making sure that I had all the passwords and all the technology set up, and you have just kept up with that same energy and drive and thoughtfulness this entire time, even as you've been tasked with different things to take care of during the pandemic. So I truly appreciate your willingness to really step up to the plate and be a team player and really work so hard on behalf of this legislative body. You're such a pleasure to work with, and I wish you well.
Well, I echo my colleagues' comments. You obviously have took care of all of us from a technology perspective and figured out this whole virtual meeting stuff during this pandemic, and so I don't know what we're going to do without you, to be honest, but I'm super excited about your new role. Don't be surprised if you still get a phone call because we need some help with something, but certainly wishing you the best of luck in the new role, and not going far from City Hall. You're just going to be in a different part. And so really going to miss you, but thank you for everything, and we truly appreciate you.
I'll just jump in quickly to say I'll miss you so much, Angie, and you have such a wonderful heart, and everyone who meets you sees it, in part because of your eager smile, but just because you really exude goodness and service. So thank you.
Angie, I'm going to save my comments for later because we've known each other for such a long time. But certainly council will miss your engagement, and I appreciate all the work you've done. And certainly to echo the comments from my colleagues, you'll be sorely missed, all right? And you know I can't act the way I would normally, so I'm going to be restrained, okay? And we'll deal with it later on. Thank you, Angie.
Well, Angie, there's not much left to be said, but I had a similar experience as Councilmember Favor when I came on. You were incredibly helpful to me, and I just want to say you are the rare mix of heart and competence, and you may be, I think, the most optimistic person I think I've ever worked with. and to have that in City Hall is a joyous thing. It's not always every day we get to be optimistic about everything. So thank you for your service, and I wish you far fewer late nights ahead in your new career at the city, because we have certainly taken quite advantage of your grace over the past 18 plus months, being up very late with council more than a few times. So thank you for everything you've done for me and for everyone at this body, but most importantly, the citizens of Columbus. So we just appreciate everything you've done for us. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Madam Clerk, do you have any? All right. Miss Angie, I think you've heard from all of my colleagues just speaking about how appreciative we are for your service. We really mean it, and we are really excited about your next. And you are just down the road, and you're still part of the Columbus family. So we wish you the best. Do you want to say anything before we close out?
Thank you, everyone, for your kind words. I am not good at this at all. Sorry. And I have my partner in here to take care of that for me. Sorry about that. But thank you so much, everyone. You have all been truly a pleasure and a blessing to work for and with. And you have definitely made it easier for me to do this job. It is crazy as far as the Webex and technology piece has been concerned. I felt pretty good about everything else, and then this tragedy hit and we had to figure out something and change hats, which I could not have done any of it without your patience and trust, and particularly Mark Carter as well, who I know, Councilmember Remy, you say you don't know what you're going to do, but I tell you what, between the competent staff in the clerk's office and Mark Carter's support, everything is going to be just fine in this regard. And then Angie Blevins, who's the most wonderful clerk that I've worked for ever, everything will be just fine in that regard. So thank you all very much for your very kind words and your blessings as I start this new chapter in my life. Sincerest thanks again, and I am only a phone call away and right up the street, always.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.